Classes have ended. I couldn't bring myself to head to the mansion right away, so instead I've been just staring idly out the window at the schoolyard. The classroom had been dyed orange by the setting sun. The color, like that of a still wet watercolor red, hurts my eyes just a little. I don't really like crimson red. Looking at it makes me feel nauseous. It's like it seeps directly into the tips of my eyeballs. As it turns out, I have a hard time with things that remind me of blood. Or more accurately, I've developed a condition that has made me this way. Probably must have been from the accident. 7 years ago, Shiki had a near-death experience, or the incident. I'm told that it was a terrible accident, and since I happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, I was caught up in a collapsing building. Initially, it had seemed that the injury would be fatal, and everyone had given up hope. Apparently, things were looking pretty grim. However, thanks to the quick response of the doctors, and the fact that all the ruins are concentrated in one place, I was miraculously saved somehow. When I think back on it like this, it seems like someone else's story, and it's only natural that much of it feels made up. One day, I unexpectedly got involved in an accident, was struck by an object which pierced through my chest and lost consciousness. I was like a machine that had been forcibly shut down. My memories immediately following the incident are an indistinct blur of pain and cold. The first thing I can remember clearly is waking up in a hospital bed. I still have the scars from that accident. According to what I've heard, not only did I land hard on my back when I fell, but a piece of glass or something had pierced my chest. Thanks to that, I have a burn-like scar in the middle of my chest and back. The first time I looked directly at my body after the wounds had closed, I passed out at a gruesome sight. Since then, I've had frequent bouts of anemia and fainted many times, causing a lot of trouble for those around me. That's probably the reason why Tono Makihisa left me with the Orimas. He must have thought I wasn't strong enough to be the heir of the Tono family. That selfish bastard. I hold back the wave of nausea that comes over me. The pain is like a needle pricking my eyeball, but I take some deep breaths and push through it. That mark of death lies square in the middle of my chest, hidden beneath my uniform. Ever since that accident, I've been able to see the lines. Thanks to the glasses that Sensei gave me, I've been able to live a decent life, but if I hadn't met her, I would have lost my mind ages ago. When I said goodbye to Keiko-san this morning, she was concerned about the fact that the members of the Tono household are a little unusual. She needn't have worried. After all, even if they're abnormal, I'm not exactly an ordinary person either. I put my glasses back on and pick up my bag. I can't stay in this classroom forever. I'll wander around the school, return to the mansion. I walk a new route back to my new home. After passing block after block of close-knit apartment complexes, I arrive at a spacious and upscale residential area. I'm getting closer and closer to the Tono mansion. The scenery around me isn't familiar. I lived in the Tono mansion up until 7 years ago, until I was 10 years old. My memories back then are definitely hazy, but this scenery is still pretty nostalgic. I'm not entirely sure how I feel right now. This return trip is both nostalgic and novel to me. I walk up along the long slope. There are fewer and fewer houses around. The smell of greenery tickles my nostrils. Even though we're in the middle of a city, the atmosphere here feels like it has rejected modernity. Almost all the land from this point on belongs to the Tono family. The mansion where Tono Shiki lived until he was 10 years old. All it holds old memories and a family that doesn't get along. Though, that said, I only have one immediate family member left in the mansion now. The father that hated me, Tono Makihisa, the head of the Tono family, passed away the other day. My mother died of an illness that year Akiha was born. So, there are only 2 Tonos left, me and my younger sister Akiha. Normally, as the eldest son, Tono Shiki would be the family heir, but I have lost that privilege. Being the heir of the Tono family means being subjected to a rigid education. I hated it, so I'd always run off and go play. I can't even remember how many times my father gave me a hard time about it. Then, I was involved in an accident that left me with a physical defect, and he took the opportunity to cut me off. He said, "Even if you're the eldest son, a weakling like you, who could drop dead at any time, cannot be my successor." I defied his expectations and managed to recover, but by that time, my younger sister Akiha had been chosen as the heir. Akiha was already being raised as a daughter of the Tono family, but once I was out of the running, her upbringing became even stricter. I used to play together with her in the mansion gardens up until I was 10 years old, up until I was involved in that accident. I haven't seen her even once since then. That was 7 years ago. I wonder how the Tono mansion has changed. I'll arrive at the mansion in a few minutes. If there's one thing that's still on my mind, it's father, my sister. Wasn't there a kid who used to play with? Wasn't there another kid who used to play with? I'm gonna say Akiha. It's my sister Akiha, of course. She apparently came to visit me a few times right after I was entrusted to the Arima household. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see her since I was on my way to and from the hospital after she went off to boarding school. We only exchanged a few letters. Unlike Akiha, I'm no longer a member of the main family. That was why I was unable to lead a free and easy life. It wouldn't be inaccurate to say I've barely had any contact with my sister at all in these past 7 years. To be honest, the idea of returning to the Tono mansion hadn't even crossed my mind the entire time, but Akiha is there. When we were kids, she was quiet and always followed me around as though there was something out there that terrified her. Perhaps it was her long black hair and luxurious clothes, but Akiha seemed like a captive princess straight out of a fairy tale, a fragile girl. Even though I have no right to act like a big brother now, I've been worried about her future these past 7 years. Which is why when I heard the news of the Makihisa's death, my first concern was for her. With our father gone, she was left all alone in that vast mansion. More than anything, I feel guilty about forcing the duties of the Tono family on her and living a selfish life. I think the reason why I agreed to come back to the mansion may have been so I could apologize to her. The main gate is firmly shut. As a child, I knew the Tono mansion was pretty big, but after living in the normal-sized Arima house, it's finally sinking in just how huge the mansion really is. This entire hill overlooking the city is property of the Tono family. The plot with the mansion on it all alone is larger than my high school, and if you count the forest that spreads out behind it, it's probably 3 times bigger. The grounds are surrounded by a long wall, and trees make it impossible to peek inside. The main gate, which serves as the entrance to the property, is closed and forbidding. Next to the big gate for cars, there is a doorway for people. After a moment of hesitation, I press the button that seems to be the doorbell. Unlike a normal intercom, there is no ringing to be heard by the person who pressed the button. After a few seconds of waiting, the lock on the door releases, and the intercom buzzes, inviting me to enter.
このドア、全自動になったんだ。昔は守衛さんがいたんだけどな。
I open the heavy door, pass through the stone gate, and set foot on the Tono estate. The door locks tightly behind me with a satisfying clunk. Beyond the main gate, a gently sloping path leads into the depths of the forest. Tall trees hem in the path, making it feel like a tunnel. It extends due east, then after about 40 meters, makes a hard left turn to the north. With each step I take, my memories gradually start to regain their luster. I know this path. I ran along it countless times. Almost there. At this corner, you turn north, to the left, and there it is. Big mansion. The Tono mansion, towering high like some imposing castle. I let out a sigh that could be of either admiration or resignation. It hasn't changed at all. According to my father, the house was heavily renovated after the war. The basic construction, however, was inherited from my grandfather, who himself inherited it from his own grandfather. This is a castle for a powerful man. a man from a family that has been in this land for hundreds of years. To Makihisa, no, to all the members of the Tono family, this mansion is practically sacred. At the annual family reunions, there would always be a handful of adults trying to curry favor with my father so that he'd rent them a corner of the mansion. They were all probably successful businessmen with their own mansions, yet for some reason they were obsessed with living there. They must have considered living here to be a very prestigious. What a bunch of nonsense. I'm not familiar with the values of the upper class, so as far as I'm concerned, it's just a luxurious mansion.
さて
There's no turning back now, not after I've come this far. Next to the double doors, there's an incongruous doorbell. Incongruous, what is it? I shake off my nervousness and push the doorbell. The familiar ring that would usually follow never comes. The heavy silence continues for several seconds. I can hear the sounds of hurried footsteps coming from the other side of the door.
はい、お待ち申し上げておりました。
Despite its heavy appearance, the door opens lightly. There it is, the inside of the mansion. I squint at the light of the setting sun shining through the window. I thought I'd have prepared myself for this, but the sight of the lobby is enough to take my breath away. Any visitor would be overwhelmed by the architectural beauty. I get the striking feeling that I've been transported to a different country in a different time. The interior of the mansion is so dated that even the atmosphere is different. Still, this is the Tono residence lobby of my memories. Kahaku, one of the maids. I stand there motionless, across from the person who came to greet me, a girl in an anachronistic clothes.
よかった。あんまりにも遅いものですから、お迷いになられているのではと心配していたんですよ。日が落ちてもいらっしゃらないようでしたら、こちらからお迎えに向かうところでした。
The girl wearing a kimono and an apron laughs softly.
いや
I'm so bewildered by this unexpected turn of events that I can't speak coherently. I assumed the person waiting to welcome me would have been the rugged-looking butler who had been Makihisa's secretary. The girl tilts her head gently, as if puzzled by my confused attitude.
四季様ですよね。
はい。様っていうのは余計だけど。
ですよね。もう脅かさないでください。私また間違えてしまったのかと怖くなってしまったじゃないですか。
Her voice sounds a lot different than a melty blood. Probably just because of just her tone. She's wearing a kimono and an apron. She came to greet me, and she addresses me as Sama, in which case she must be...
すみません。もしかしてここのお手伝いさんですか？
She simply smiles in response to my question.
さあ、お疲れでしょ。遠慮せずに上がってくださいな。秋葉様がお手すきになるまで今でおくつろぎください。
The girl starts walking as if guiding me, her every movement gentle and calm. She heads towards the corridor on the east side of the lobby, next to the grand staircase. If I remember correctly, the door to the living room is just inside that hallway. I decide to obediently follow her, decide to stop the girl and ask for her name. I think I'll just explore the mansion a little. Let's ask for her name. I decide to stop her and ask for her name. I'd feel bad just calling her you there.
すみません。名前を聞いていいですか？来たばかりで今のうちの事情がよくつかめなくて。
I call out to her. The girl in the kimono looks at me in surprise.
琥珀と申します。このお屋敷で遠野家のご当主様に仕えさせていただいております。
Smiling, the girl bows after her introduction. It was a gentle motion, like that of a flower blooming from a bud. The girl leads me into the living room. The living room, which I haven't seen in 7 years, is so much more luxurious now that I feel like as if I'm seeing it for the first time. I wonder if I've gotten too used to the Arima house, or if the standards here have risen in the past 7 years. Either way, I feel like this is a stranger's room, and it makes me uncomfortable. I start to look around the living room.
借りてきた猫ちゃんみたいですね。お気持ちはわかりますが、どうぞ楽にしてくださいまし。ここは四季様の家なんですから。
そうですよね。
I hurriedly sit down on the sofa. I only just came back to my own house, and I'm already overwhelmed by everything. How pathetic. The girl in the kimono moves the tea wagon located in the corner of the living room closer, brews a cup of tea, and brings it to me on a tray.
どうぞ、そちですが。
ありがとうございます。
I can't help but feel embarrassed as she serves me politely with a smile on her face. I doubt it has anything to do with the way I lived at the Arima house. I'm just middle class at heart.
アキハ様に声をおかけしてきますので、しばらくお待ちください。そうですね。おそらく10分ほどかかりますから、それまでお屋敷の中を見て回るのもよろしいかと。
いいんですか？勝手に歩き回って。
何をおっしゃいますやら。ここは四季様のお家です。勝手も何もございません。いえ、でも2階はちょっと行けませんね。秋葉様がいらっしゃいますから。1階でしたらお好きにご観覧ください。四季様にとっては7年ぶりのお屋敷ですもの。懐かしくて胸が弾んでいますでしょ。
She brandishes a mischievous smile. Kohaku-san bows and leaves the room.
参ったな。
The lavishly made living room makes my muttering reverberate even louder. Should I stay here and pass the time being nervous, or should I take a walk around the mansion? I'll take a little walk. Why not? 10 minutes. 10 minutes, huh? That's enough time to go nose around the mansion for a bit. I can at least take a look around at the rest of the east wing and the first floor corridor.
でも緊張するだけだしな。
I get up off the sofa. If I remember correctly, the west wing has a game room with a pool table and darts.
おや、戻る前に立ち寄ったのだが、先客がいたとはね。
Who's that? Just as I step into the lobby, a voice calls out for me from the stairs. When I look over at the large staircase leading to the second floor, I see an all-black figure, almost too strange to be believed.
こんにちは、四季君。塔の邸にようこそ。
Who are you? You look like the Danganronpa killer when they
というのは
they aren't revealed yet.
君の場合、おかえりというのが正しかった。
The man, probably in his 30s by the sound of his voice, saunters into the lobby. The fact that he's in all black is not a metaphor. For whatever reason, he's covered up in black bandages, not only his hands, but all the way up to his face. It makes him look like the central villain of the archetypal mystery novel. Like Danganronpa.
あなた。
覚えていないのか。そうか。私だよ。佐伯ゴートだ。君が子供の頃に何度か顔を合わせたことはあったが、このなりではね、覚えていても一致はしないだろう。
Psyche? Was there a branch of the Tono family with that name? No, more importantly, this person is... how should I say it?
構わんよ。キーの視線には慣れている。私は事故で顔を焼いてしまってね。ずいぶん前からこうでもしないと出歩けない体になっている。秋葉にも煙たがられているが、こればかりは仕方のないことだ。彼女にも責任の一端はあることだしね。
With a self-deprecating smile, Saiki Goto lifts his left hand to shade his eyes, as if to say that even the setting sun shining through the skylight was unpleasant.
しかしまあ、よくも帰ってこられたものだ。 君のことだよ、四季君。牧久の言いつけを破って屋敷を抜け出した結果、くだらない事故に巻き込まれて脱落した。脱落。そう脱落だ。君はご両親からの投資を投げ捨て、自らの義務を放棄した脱落者だ。にもかかわらず、こうして屋敷に戻り、秋葉の兄として振る舞おうとしている。そんな自分が恥ずかしいと思わないのかね。
I resist the urge to just respond with what? There's obvious contempt and provocation in Saiki Goto's eyes, but there's no point in making a scene here. After all, there's no mistaking what he said.
おや、反論はないのかな。
ないですよ。義務を放棄したのは事実ですから。でも脱落者とか投資とか家族の話にそんな言葉を使うあなたこそ。
家族の話だからこそ的確な言葉を選んだんだよね。養育は一族の将来への投資だ。市井の人間はともかく、選ばれた血筋、尊い家系において個人の自由は存在しない。自由、いや自意識と言ってもいいな。それらは成人した後、一族を背負えるようになって初めて獲得できる権利のはずだ。君は遠野の子でありながらそれを理解していなかった。秋葉とは似ても似つかぬ三流だ。まあ一度地に落ちていながら帰ってくる高顔さだけは一流と言えなくもないよね。そう睨むな四季君。今のはただの客観論だよ。私個人の評価じゃない。誤解させてしまったようだが、私は君の帰還に反対はしていない。どちらかというと賛成派だし、そもそも遠野家現当主の決定でもある。よそ者である私にどうこう言えることでもないだろう。
An outsider? Then this man isn't from one of our branch families?
佐伯家は祖父の代から遠野家とは対等の付き合いをしている。現代風に言うとビジネスパートナーというやつだ。今日は商談に来ただけでね。長引いてしまったが、色よい返事をもらえて上機嫌で帰るところだったのさ。ああ、この陰気な姿でせっかくの帰郷に水を差すのも忍びない。今日はこの辺りで失礼するよ。
Okay. The man with the black bandages, Saiki Goto, heads past me towards the door, a cynical smile on his face. I bite my lip as I recall Saiki calling me a deserter. It's a very accurate description of my position in this mansion, just as he said. In any case, I need to go back to the living room and calm down. I'll take a walk around the Tono mansion later. I'm going to be reunited with my blood relative for the first time in 7 years, and I can't face Akiha if I'm in such a frustrated mood. Damn.
失礼いたします。
After exactly 10 minutes have elapsed, the girl returns.
四季様、何かお気に障ることでもありました？
It seems she's picked up on the fact that Saiki Goto's words may have me feeling down.
いえ、なんでもないんです。ちょっと気をされているだけで。お茶ありがとうございました。美味しかったです。
お上手ですね。こちらこそお褒めいただきありがとうございます。
She gives me a shy smile, which makes me feel warm as well.
と、それより本題ですね。お待たせいたしました。秋葉様のご用事がお済みになりましたので、執務室においでください。
Sure. Let's see my sister. Head upstairs via the main staircase in the center of the lobby. Her office, in some ways, you could call it the heart of the Tono family. It was Tono Makihisa's private room in his captivity as family head, and I wasn't allowed to enter as a child. A room used by each successive head of the Tono family. Now my sister Akiha is waiting for me there. In contrast to the pale tones of the living room, the dominant theme of the office is red. The curtains are luxurious. A spotless crimson carpet covers the floor. The air is heavy and dignified. You can't help but feel a rich history of the room. This is the office of the family head. Once the domain of Tono Makihisa, it now belongs to Tono Akiha.
四季様をお連れしました。ご苦労様。仕事に戻っていいわよ、琥珀。はい。それでは失礼いたしますね。
She bows lightly to both of us in return and leaves the room. Oh, there's Hisui. The only ones left are myself and two girls that I don't recognize. There she is.
お久しぶりですね、兄さん。
With a dignified look in her eyes, the girl with long black hair says a word laden with meaning. My mind is completely blank. My thoughts have stopped entirely. I can't even greet her properly. I'm only capable of nodding at her words. I'm a little disappointed in how pathetic I am, but there's not much I can do about it. The Akiha before me now looks very different from the one I knew 7 years ago.
兄さん、何かこの部屋に不審な点でも？
The black-haired girl narrows her eyes slightly, as if carefully examining her suspicious visitor.
いや、
My mind is still trying to catch up. I can only stammer inarticulately. The cogs in my brain are turning at full speed, struggling to process that the girl in front of me is Akiha. She, on the other hand, seems to have no trouble recognizing me as her brother.
話には聞いていましたが、本当に体調が不安定なんですね。時間は無駄にしますが、私からの話の前に、
She addresses me. Akiha's words seem to have a certain string to them.
いや、体調はそう悪くない。アキハがあんまりにも変わってたんで、びっくりしたというか。
7年も経てば変わります。ただでさえ私たちは成長期だったんですから。それとも、いつまでも以前のままだと思っていたんですか？兄さんは。
いや、それは。
I'm overwhelmed by the pressure she's exerting that I trail off. Or rather, I start to reflect on everything. I hadn't imagined what the current Akiha would be like. I hadn't thought outside of the realm of childhood memories convenient to me as her brother. I wonder how these past 7 years have made her develop. But it's way too rude to think about this in front of her.
面目ない。正直考えが足りなかった。でも、それにしたってアキハは変わったよ。昔より格段に美人になった。
I give my honest opinion.
ありがとうございます。兄さんは以前とあまり変わってはいませんね。
Akiha coldly makes an assertion with her eyes closed. Assertion. Well, I had expected something like this, but it really does seem like Akiha doesn't hold me in high regard after I left the Tomo family. The silence lasts a few seconds, as each of us tries to get a read on each other. I'm struggling to think of a casual greeting that's appropriate for a sister I've only just been reunited with. Akiha, meanwhile, is observing me as if I were a stranger, which I suppose I am to her at this point.
まあいいでしょう。体調が良いのなら話を済ませましょう。今回の移転について詳しい事情は聞いていますか？
いや、詳しい事情は何も。いいから屋敷に帰ってこいって話だけだ。親父が亡くなったことは新聞で知ったけど。
When the head of a business group passes away, it's covered in the financial columns. We live in a world where even someone like me, the disowned son of the family, can learn of his parents' death without being informed by relatives. The news of Tono Makihisa's death was delivered to the Arima family after his funeral. It was as if it was none of my business.
申し訳ありません。お父様のことを兄さんに知らせなかったのはこちらの失策でした。
Akiha quietly bows her head. Her smooth black hair is beautiful, but now is not the time to be admiring it. I shouldn't have said that earlier.
そこは気にしなくていいんじゃないかな。俺が言ったって死人が生き返るわけでもないんだ。逆に親戚筋に合わなくて助かった。
Being disowned puts you in a complicated position in many ways.
そうですか。そう言っていただけると私も少しは気が楽になります。
The same goes for me, having a sister as frank as her. Funerals are a ritual for those who cannot forget the deceased to lay their feelings to rest. We are father and son with ties long since severed. I can't think of a single reason to say goodbye to Tono Makihisa. I have neither the right nor the duty to see him off.
でもそうなると誰が俺を呼び戻したんだ？親父の遺言ってわけでもないんだろ。
兄さんをこちらに呼び戻したのは私の決定です。いつまでも遠野の長男が有馬の家に預けられているのはおかしいでしょ。どんな欠陥があろうとあなたは遠野の人間なのですから。
Well, that's kinda nice to hear, I guess. I've come to accept the word defect as natural. I heard it often from my father. I don't feel any dissatisfaction or animosity at hearing it from her either. After all, it's a correct assessment.
お父様、遠野牧久が亡くなった以上、遠野の血筋は私と兄さんだけです。血は守られなければいけません。お父様がどのような考えで兄さんを有馬の家に預けたかは知りませんが、そのお父様もすでに他界なさった身。理由が定かではない以上、当の指揮をこちらで監督するのは家族として当然のことでしょ。
Akiha's words are calm but compelling. It's as if she's declaring in advance that she won't listen to any of my complaints or
監
protests.
督するか。じゃあもし遠野の家に帰ることを拒否してたらどう？
そんな自由はあなたにはありません。有馬の人間にも本家からの決定を拒む権利はありません。私も兄さんも遠野家に育てられたものです。少なくとも成人し社会的に自立するまではあなたは遠野家に隷属する義務があります。
That's what Makihika said too. Parents have a responsibility to raise their children and send them off as members of society. A family is no more than the smallest subdivision that makes up a nation, and as a company, you mustn't ship defective products. To do so not only damages the name of the family, but also lowers the quality of the whole country. Those who cannot take on that responsibility are not qualified to be parents, and children who cannot live up to that responsibility have no reason to be part of the family. Tona Makihisa told this to me and Akiha many times. It was as if he was persuading himself over and over again.
親父の口癖だったな。じゃあ俺を呼び戻した理由は単に
It was in consideration for a brother who was disowned by their father.
どのような経緯であれ、あなたが遠野家の長男だからです。それ以外に理由があるとでも。
As the head of the Tono family, she is just cleaning up a matter that had been left unattended.
理解していただけて何よりです。言うまでもありませんが、私の発言は遠野家当主のものとして受け取ってください。戸籍上ではあなたは私の兄ですが、この家における上下関係はまた別のものです。兄さん、私はあなたを兄として尊重しますが、同時にこの家を預かる者としてあなたを遠野家の財産として扱います。7年前のことは忘れて、私たちは当主とその家人であることを肝に銘じてくださいますよう。
Akiha's voice is indifferent. She hands down her despotic judgment upon me, and it's true that I did feel something rather cold-hearted in that. But nevertheless...
うん、それはそれでわかりやすい。はっきり言ってくれた方が俺もすっきりする。
This is a natural outcome. It's nothing to be upset about.
私の言葉を理解していますか？私は兄さんより上の立場でそれを承諾しろと一方的に宣言したつもりですけど。
分かってるし文句はないよ。だってどう考えてもこの扱いになるだろう、今の俺は。むしろ7年間好き放題に生きてきた俺に妹としてきちんと礼を取ってくれる明葉に感謝してる。けど明葉の考えは別にして親戚の連中がよく納得したな。俺を有馬の家に預けろって言い出したの確か親戚の人たちじゃなかったっけ？
そうですね。ですが今の当主は私です。親戚の方たちの進言は全て却下しました。この件に関して意見を挟むと
Making
いう
use
こ
of
と
that
は
authority,
私に
clearly.
ひいては遠野に逆らうことだと明言しましたから。
My eyes widened involuntarily. Even Makihisa couldn't reject the branch families, but for Akiha to persuade all of them, no, maybe she just argued them down. Damn. She's certainly matured outwardly, but I'm a little scared of just how much she's matured on the inside as well. The family register says I'm her older brother, but I'm worried she might have leapfrogged me.
兄さん、ぼーっとしたお顔をされていますが、何か？
ああ、いや、感心したというか感動したというか、本当に当主として認められたんだな。
当たり前です。そうでもなければ兄さんを呼び戻せないでしょう。話を戻します。兄さんには今日からここで暮らしていただきますが、ここにはここの規律があります。今までのような無作法は避けていただきますから、そのつもりで。
おそりゃ無理だよ、秋葉。今さら俺がお行儀いい人間に戻れるわけないし、戻ろうって気もないんだから。
いえ、何があろうと戻っていただきます。子供じゃあるまいし、試す前から泣き言は結構です。それとも私にできたことが兄さんにはできないとおっしゃるのですか？
She shoots me a cold glance. Or rather, her gaze is more like a piercing spear. There's no doubt about it. I'm now being mercilessly bombarded with the animosity that has piled up during these last 7 years.
わかった。できるだけ努力はしてみる。
努力はするですか。都合のいい返答ですね。努力をすれば誰であれ報われるとでも。私が求めているのは結果だけですので、そのつもりで。
I'm completely dumbfounded by her lack of even an ounce of kindness.
いいです。兄さんは今まで自由気ままに暮らしていたんですから、すぐに生活を正せとは言いません。最短で1週間、最長で1ヶ月の猶予を差し上げますので、どうぞ死ぬ気で努力してください。
I hold back the thought that this seems more like a suspended sentence than being let off the hook. Akiha is making a compromise in her own way, I'm sure.
ですね、そこまで無茶な話ではありませんから。現在、屋敷には兄さんと私しか住んでいません。うるさ型の親戚筋がいては、兄さんも落ち着けないでしょうし、私も煩わしいので、人払いは済ませました。
Wait a minute. You don't mean...
お前、屋敷に居候してる親戚全員を追い出したのか？
ええ、どうぞお気になさらず。家と財産を失いながら何の努力もせず、お父様の温情にすがっていただけの方々です。遅かれ早かれ屋敷から出て行ってもらう予定でした。あ、使用人たちも大部分に暇を出しましたが、私と兄さん付きのものは残しましたので問題はありません。
いや、問題ないってありすぎるだろ。 そんな勝手をしまくったら次の親戚会議でやり玉にあげられるぞ。
もうつべこべ言わないでください。兄さんだって屋敷の中に人があふれかえっているより私たちしかいない方が気持ちは楽でしょ。
Well, it really does make me feel better.
いやでもだな、本当にそれでいいのか。親父だって親戚の意見には逆らわなかったのに、そんな暴君みたいなわがままを通しちまって。
そうですね。だからお父様は兄さんを有馬の家に預けたんです。けれど私、子供の頃からあの人たちが大っ嫌いでしたから、これ以上どうでもいい彼らの小言を聞くのはごめんです。
ごめんですって、アキハ。
ああ、もういいから、私なんかの心配は結構です。そんなことより兄さんはこれからのご自分の生活を案じてください。いろいろ大変なことになるって目に見えているんだから。
Akiha said impulsively, forcing the discussion to a close.
状況はご理解いただけたとは思いますが、兄さんはまだ有馬での暮らしが抜けきれていない様子。ま、それもいいでしょう。そのための使用人です。この先わからないことがあったらこの子に言いつけて。翡翠。
Without turning around, Akiha calls out the girl who had been waiting in the corner of the room. Hello, Hisui. The girl called Hisui steps forward and bows at my direction. It's an expressionless but polite bow, the embodiment of sincerity.
この子は翡翠、うちの使用人です。これから兄さん付きの次女にしますが、よろしいですね。
I see. So she's a maid here. Wait, what?
次女ってつまりその。
わかりやすく言うと召使いということです。
I can't believe it. The girl in the maid uniform looks like to be the same age as Akiha, and her face is devoid of expression in a manner that seems almost natural for her.
ちょっと待ってくれ。召使いとか大げさすぎないか。自分のことぐらい自分で面倒を見れるっていうか。
食事の支度や洗濯もですか。
Akiha mercilessly points at my shortcomings.
ともかくこの屋敷に戻ってきた以上、私の指示には従ってもらいます。有馬の家ではどう暮らしていたかは知りませんが、これからの兄さんは遠野家で暮らす遠野家の長男なんです。相応の待遇は義務として受け入れてください。
I cast a glance over at the girl in the maid uniform. Hisui is still expressionless, just staring back at me like a doll.
それじゃあ翡翠、兄さんを部屋に案内してあげて。この人は右も左もわからない子猫と変わらないようですから、この広い屋敷でいきなり迷子にならないようにね。かしこまりました、秋葉様。
After bowing to Akiha, Hisui quietly comes towards me. She's staring straight at me, but I look all over the place so that our eyes don't meet. Her pace is gentle, but not slow. It's clear she's been a maid for a long time.
あ、それと兄さん、長男といえどこの屋敷では禁止された事柄、立ち入ってはいけない場所があります。それを犯したりすることのないように。翡翠には兄さんのお守りも命じてありますから、翡翠の進言にはできる限り耳を傾けてください。
それお守りじゃなくて監視役って言わないか。
兄さんが規則正しい生活をしてくだされば、翡翠もそんな役割から解放されます。それではまた夕食の席で。
It seems that Akiha has packed schedule and doesn't want to waste any more time.
お部屋にご案内いたします、四季様。
Ignoring my confusion, Hisui heads for the door. Sighing, I leave the office as well.